Okay, and we're live.
Thank you. So we're on number 33, 122 GALLEY Avenue. Committee has before a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. Covering letter from Judy Sans Soleil, the agent, dated January 18th. Correspondence and support from 118 and 115 GALLEY Avenue. Moderator, do we have anyone other than the agent or owner
Nope, just the
speaking
agent.
today? Okay. The agent could identify themselves with their name and address for the record, please.
Hello, my name is Judy Sansoleil. I am the agent for 122 GALLEY. I am at 212 Fern Avenue.
Thank you. Panel members, do you need a presentation? Do you have any questions? Okay. Do you, Ms. Soleil, do you have any comments you wish to make to the committee before we consider this?
No, only that I submitted the cover letter, so if that has the information you need, thank you for considering us.
Thank you. So we're in committee. Discussion and a motion, please. Mr. Reed?
Thanks, Chair. We're in a series of very similar applications, so I feel like I'm repeating myself, but this again is very well done. I think it's the massing's being broken up and pushed to the rear, and the front enclosure of the porch makes sense, and I think it actually improves the look of the house. I can see no negative impacts from these variances being proposed. I believe they're minor, and I move approval with no conditions.
Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Mr. Granenstein. So we have a motion to approve the application with no conditions. All in favor? The application is approved. The committee moves on to application number 34. 36, I'm not going to pronounce this right, ROSEMARY Avenue. Sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly. Committee has before a copy of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. Correspondence from Metrolinx Corridor Development Metrolinx Corridor Development Permit and Corridor Development Permit application form. We also have a deferral request on this application from the owner, dated January 20th, and there's a staff report from the Director of Community Planning, Toronto and East York District. So could we have the agent unmuted, please?
The agent is Frank Samifani, and we have an additional speaker as well. The agent is now unmuted.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to deal, can I have your name and your address, please, for the record?
Yes, my name is Frank Samifani, 200 Lakeland Crescent, Richmond Hill.
Okay, so we're going to speak to the deferral request, your request for deferral first. Could you let us know why you're asking for a deferral?
If I may get your approval for the homeowner who's online, as well as Lisa and Steve Harris to be speaking first, if you can approve that.
Okay, that's fine. Mr. Harris, are you on the line?
Through you, Madam Chair, it seems like the owners don't have an active microphone. I'm just going to give them a call instead.
Thank you.
Hi there.
Hello. I have your name.
Hi, this is Lisa. This is Lisa Harris from 36 ROXETER, the homeowner.
Okay.
And we have put it. Oh, sorry.
Could you please speak to the reason why you're requesting a deferral?
Sure. The planning committee reached out to us last week with some concerns that we actually are a little confused on. So we'd like to have a better understanding, as well as, you know, in listening to today, which was very informative, I think come a little bit more prepared, because there is definitely some confusion on our part, mine and my husband's. We've lived in our house for 18 years and we were hoping to do as most of our homeowners here in our neighborhood have, and we've spoken to many of them who have their approval for the addition. We're just having a flat roof on the 3rd story with the 2 other bedrooms, and we're extending out to make a home office, as many of our neighbors are. But I think there are some questions in regards to the plans that we just don't understand, and we want to be able to better prepare, come with some other maybe plans if we need to change things. And we're just, in a week, we weren't able to do that, and we'd like to defer.
Okay, so if you could hold on just a moment, please. Moderator, could we have the other person who is wishing to speak unmuted, please?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair.
Good afternoon. Could I have your name and address, please?
Jonathan Binskowski, 38 ROXETER.
So you've heard there's a request for deferral for the applicant to have the opportunity to address the concerns or have discussions with planning. Could I get your position on the deferral request?
No issue.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. Okay, committee members, any questions with respect to the request for deferral? Okay, anything else the agent or the owner want us to know before we consider the deferral request? Okay, so we'll take it into committee on the request to defer. Mr. Granenstein.
Yeah, I move we approve the deferral on usual terms.
Okay. Seconder, Mr. Reed, thanks. Okay, so motion to defer. All in favor? Your application has been deferred. It will be rescheduled as the committee timetable permits. Thank you. So the committee's moving on to number 35. 48 Mount Royal Road. The committee has before the following information: copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, covering letter from Sean Galbraith, the agent, received January 18th, four form letters in support, signed by the owners or occupants of 46 and 52 Mount Royal Avenue. Moderator, is anyone online other than the agent or owner?
Just the agent.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Galbraith, could you identify yourself with a name and address formally for the record, please?
Good afternoon. My name is Sean Galbraith. I'm a planner here on behalf of the application. My address is 18 King Street East, Suite 1400.
Thank you. Panel members, do you need a presentation? Do you have any questions of Mr. Galbraith? Mr. Galbraith, is there anything, the panel has no questions? Do you have anything you'd like to say to the panel before we consider this matter?
Just that I think it's an appropriate development for the site.
Thank you. Okay, so we're in committee now. Discussion and a motion, please. Mr. Reed?
Thanks. I think that this is a very sensitively massed addition. It steps away from the front and from the rear, and is really modest in terms of what it's attempting to do. I think it's a supportable application, so I move approval, so with no conditions.
Okay. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Mr. Brandenstein. So moved and seconded for approval, no conditions. All in favor? Your application has been approved. The committee moves on to item number 36, 414 Montrose Avenue. Committee has before it copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, and a previous decision of the committee of adjustment affecting the subject property. Moderator, do we have anyone other than the agent or owner online?
Nope, just the agent.
Okay. So if the agent could identify themselves with their name and address for the record, please.
Afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Marco Vieira. I'm the agent, and I'm at 257 Dunraven Drive.
Thank you. Committee members, do you need a presentation? Any questions of the agent? Mr. Granenstein?
Your variance number 3, sir, talks about a height of 10.42 meters. I assume that's related to the covered rooftop patio. Is that correct?
The height is actually the structure of where the stairs is being extended up to access the rooftop only. So it's only for those 2.2 meters in width, generally speaking, in the middle of the existing dwelling.
Okay, so in other words, the majority of the house is no taller than 10 meters.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Is there anything that anything else you'd like to tell the committee before we give this consideration?
No, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. So we're in committee now. Discussion and a motion, please. Mr. Reed?
Thanks. I'm happy to bring a motion for approval. I think this has been, I like the fact that they have pushed it in, pushed the rooftop patio from the front and back. I think that's minimizing any overlook onto the backyards of adjacent properties and any potential impacts to the street. As well, it's been screened very well. I would like to tie it to the elevations just to ensure that this height variance we're approving is only to the access point to the rooftop structure.
Okay. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Mr. Granenstein. So we're going, the motion to approve the application tied to the elevation drawings. It's moved and seconded. All in favor? That application is approved on that condition. The committee moves to item number 37. 113 Lansdowne Avenue. The committee has before it copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 2 photographs of the existing dwelling received October 8th, and correspondence in opposition by a Mr. or Ms. Tang, I'm not sure, at 113.5 Lansdowne Avenue. Moderator, how many people do we have on?
We have the agent and we have the agent and one other speaker in opposition.
Thank you very much. So if we could have the agent identify themselves, name and address for the record, please.
Peter Latosek, you are unmuted. You are able to speak. Please ensure your microphone is unmuted. It's your microphone is plugged in and your microphone volume is up. Through you, Madam Chair, I can try giving them a call.
Please do. Thank you very much.
Through you, Madam Chair, it seems we aren't able to connect to the agent right now. It's going to the voice message.
So perhaps we could move on to item 38 and come back?
Yep.
Would that be possible?
Yep.
Say we're going to move on to number 38, 314 Rosemary Road. Committee has before a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, and presentation material from Mr. Muzaffari, the agent, dated January 17th. Is there other individuals other than the agent or owner who wishes to speak on this matter?
Yes, Madam Chair, there's one other speaker in opposition.
Thank you. So could we have the agent or owner please?
Good
Yes.
afternoon. My name is Mehdi Ajman. I'm here as the architect of project and on behalf of my client as the owner of 314 Rosemary Road.
And your address, please?
It's 1901 Avenue Road. And before going through the case, I would like to inform committee panel for some improvement and elimination of variance that we have on this case, if I may
Okay.
to explain that.
Okay, just one moment, please. Let us. Okay, so if you can take us through the notice of hearing and indicate where you would
Sure.
be making changes?
Okay. Variance number 7 is eliminated.
Okay,
And variance number 9 is improved from 22.8 square meter to 16.8 square meter.
sorry, can you go through that again? I'm sorry.
So the area of the south side third story deck
Okay.
will be 16.8 meter instead of 22.8.
Okay, thank you. So those are the changes?
Yes.
Okay, so you have 5 minutes to make your
Sure.
presentation. Please proceed.
Okay, I try to be as quick as possible. This is the application for a 3-story custom design home in Forest Hill neighborhood. We try to be in line with whatever happening in the neighborhood and the character of neighborhood. We had distributed the letter explaining the situation and nature of variances to all of our neighbor. Apparently, we didn't receive any objection, but I know that there is one neighbor attended over there. We also received no objection from planning department about this application. I'm going to go through the variances each one by one. Variance number 1 is related to the rear deck that we have. That rear deck is the height of proposed deck from the existing grade around that is 1.64 instead of 1.2 meter. And that difference caused these variances. Although the natural slope of property over there is, it's about 1 meter. We have 1 meter difference from north side of the lot to the south side of the lot. That's why, because these variances is caused, but we are okay to propose the privacy screen if the neighbor has any concern. We are okay to propose the privacy screen on the south side. For variance number 2 and 3, we are asking for the height and wall height. For the as we can see on the presentation document, page 2 and 3, the actual wall height that we have on this project is 9.44 meter, and we are asking for 11.6 just for the 10% of north wall and also 25% of south wall, which that 25% has a 15 feet step back. So it is so the effect of this variance is so minor, and also it's aligned with character of neighborhood and also the similar cases that we have in the area. For variance number 4 and 5, we are asking for length and depth. What we try to again over here is, if I can see the, yes, that's this first page. We try to provide a transition from our north neighbor to the south neighbor. This number of variance for 20.83 is just for this north portion, and that length is happened in the first story and second story. We have another step back in a third story, which led us to 18.06 meter building length over there. And as you can see, we are almost aligned with the both side neighbors. And that 10 feet step back on the third floor is also another consideration for us. And I would like to mention that we are not asking for any setback variance, not the side setback, not front, not rear setback. We are compliant with our generous setback. For the floor space index, we are asking for 1.06 instead of 0.65. There is a confusion, there's a complication over here. If I go to the last page of my presentation, at the last moment, I found that there was a printing issue over there. There was, that's okay, that page, there was some other number that I mentioned on that. Due to the new interpretation of attic space, it's happened in the zoning bylaw on October 23, 2019. there is a situation that they include the attic space for us. So actually, the actual FSI that we have on this application is 0.95. But since based on this new interpretation of zoning bylaw, the attic space is included over there. That's why we ended up with 1.06. And we are totally okay with tying our third floor plan to the any approval or decision of the committee to make sure that this number or this layout is it will happen later on during the construction and permit application. Variance number 7 is eliminated. Variance number 8 is just it's more a technical thing due to the interior layout. We have a longer bay window on side. Instead of 30% of length, we are proposing 34%. And variance number 9 is improved for the balcony that we have on a third floor on the side of our building. We reduced the area of that balcony from 22.8 to 16.8. And variance number 10 is again height variance on the old bylaw. If there is any question, I would be more than happy to address them.
Thank you. Any questions of the architect at this time, panel members? Okay, thank you. Moderator, could we please have the other speaker come forward?
The second speaker is Jay Lewis. You are now unmuted.
Thank you very much. Jay Lewis, live at 316 Rosemary Road, the property directly to the north of the property in question here.
Good afternoon, Mr. Lewis. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you. I will keep it brief. I am a neighbor, not a lawyer, an architect, or anything else like that. We did meet the neighbors. They seem like very nice people. My great concern, and I realize none of the other neighbors are here because every once in a while we come to the committee and we lose every time. So no one has the time or energy to come to these meetings. Nonetheless, it's that overall density north of 1.0 is what troubles us. There's been a number of huge houses built in the neighborhood that's completely changed the character. Behind us, there are 2 massive houses that were approved. I don't know how these things get approved. It's completely blocked our sunlight in the afternoon, these other houses. And for the record, both those houses have sat vacant for over 2 years as well, which also troubles us with what's going on in the neighborhood. So, it sounds like a number of the variances have been removed, which is great, but overall the density just creates a very large house that does not fit in the character of the neighborhood. We built our house over 15 years ago, came to the committee, we kept in line with the front, the back, the side, more or less with the density as well. And again, just these monster houses are really just ruining the character of the neighborhood.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of the speaker? I just have one question. Did you hear the applicant's or the architect's submissions with respect to the height of the building and the proportion of the building that would be at that height? And do you have any specific comments with respect to that?
It's hard for me to put that into context. I think part of the trick is our street does go downward sloping, and so our property is slightly above their property. And so again, without seeing an alignment of how it compares to the top of our house or the house next to it, I can't visualize those numbers.
Okay, thank you. Perhaps the architect will be able to speak to that. Okay, any questions of any other questions? Okay, thank you, Mr. Lewis. So we'll go back to, the architect to respond to that and perhaps answer that question.
Okay, thank you for those concerns, but yes, exactly as our neighbor mentioned, that the street has a steep slope over there. So basically, from both sides of our property, our northern and southern, it's a common pattern over there. We have more than 1 meter difference of elevation, so that helps us to avoid any effect or influence on specifically on the north neighbors. And also the number that we have over there, the actual number is 9.44. And on top of that, on the excessive length that we are asking, we have just 2-story over there. If we go back to the second or third page of our presentation document, one up, the second page, please. Yes, exactly. As you can see at those excessive part on the right side of the drawing, it is even 8.32 meter height over there, which avoid any shadowing, any problem for that. And on top of that, we are complying with our side setback. We propose our generous side setback. Regarding the area, if we go on the last page of presentation document, yes, we try to comply with the character of neighborhood in Forestdale, but this new interpretation, we did some back and forth with the planning, with the zoning examiner, and also with Mr. Frank Sturpey as a manager of zoning for this part. This interpretation of zoning bylaw caused exaggerating this number. Although we have some precedent for this number in a similar cases that I provided, but I would say even if those applications come to the committee today, they're going to end up with much more FSI variance, because the attic space was excluded at that time and now it's included. What I would like to mention that the actual habitable space that we are asking over here, it's the habitable space over here is just about 4,900 square feet, which is 0.95, not more than 100%. But it happens because of this change in the zoning interpretation. And we also have so many void space in our house. Part of that habitable space is actually the void space, not the habitable space. So I would say it is not over proposed for this neighborhood.
Okay, thank you. Panel members, any questions of the architect? Okay, thank you very much. We'll go into committee now. Discussion or motion? Mr. Reed?
Thanks. I think we see proposals like this very often in this neighborhood, and they're all quite similar, and they're all pushing the limits. With this one, I respect some effort that's gone into the massing, particularly breaking up the third floor massing in the rear. I think that goes, that should help lessen some impacts to the neighbors. I was also worried about the size of the rooftop deck initially, but the fact that it's enclosed in a courtyard and facing basically the roof of the next house, I think is a very sensitive way to get a large rooftop deck accommodated on a property with little implications. So that, and also that there aren't setback variances being requested, make me think that this is indicative of what's happening in the neighborhood and is supportable. So I'd move to approve this application as amended. That's the deletion of variance 7 and the change of variance 9 to 16.8 meters squared with no conditions.
Have a seconder?
I agree with Peter that this is in line with the applications we see in this area, except maybe smaller, because we see applications with a room for every person, for every function you could possibly think of. Just, you know, if you grew up in Forest Hill, you can't imagine that the houses could get much bigger, but they are much bigger than they were. But I don't think this one is oversized, and the amendments are helpful, and I would support the Peter's motion.
Just one comment. Do you think, given the comments with respect to the calculation of FSI, would there be any utility in tying it to a plan, or is it just the way planning calculates it and the plans wouldn't serve any purpose of being attached?
Yeah, I don't know how much benefit
Yeah,
that would
that's
give,
what I wondered, yeah.
but I don't, if you'd like that tied in, I've got no objections.
I don't know if that, I guess, could I, could, could I ask staff whether or not, from the perspective of clarity with respect to the usable FSI, is there any merit to attaching the plan, or is, they couldn't do anything else given the way it's calculated anyway?
Were you thinking of the third floor plan, tying it to a third floor plan, or?
Yes, only because of the point, the comments with respect to the 0.95 versus the, 1.06. I know it's not a huge difference, but. Or it would be if they went for anything different, it would show as higher anyway, so.
That's right.
Okay. So the building department, when the permit goes in, is going to calculate the FSI based on the same as the zoning examiner did. Okay, then we're fine. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we have a motion to approve the application as amended with no conditions. All in favor? Application's approved. Committee moves on to number 39.
Through you, Madam Chair, it seems like we have the applicant back for item number 37.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank you very much. So we'll go back to 113 Lansdowne. So I'll mention again, the committee has before a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans and elevations, and 2 photographs of the existing dwelling that were received October 8th, and a correspondence in opposition from Ken Yuen Tang at 113.5 Lansdowne Avenue, received January 7th. Okay, thank you, moderator, for that reminder. And is the agent or applicant available?
I am. Good afternoon, Madam Chair. This is Peter Latoshak of Latag Studio as the agent for 113 Lansdowne.
Okay, thank you. You have 5 minutes to make your presentation, starting now.
Yes, thank you. Could I please have the plans up on the screen, and I would say specifically the very first page. So we are requesting 2 minor variances. One is related to the entry in the front wall of the building for the purposes of a secondary unit in the basement. And the other variance is with respect to the soft landscaping. So if you look at this image, essentially what we're proposing to do is pretty much leave the house as it is currently. We're just proposing to cut back the porch enough so that we can provide enough headroom to access the new entry that would be for the new basement apartment. The landscaping itself, we are not changing it in any way from the way it was. In fact, to some degree, I guess we are sort of enlarging it, like by actually cutting away the porch. And that would be better seen on the next image in the site plan. If you were to look, actually, sorry, then the next image after that. If you see, you can see the original, if you maybe zoom in, you can see the original brick piers, which we are planning to retain. And you can see that the footprint of the original porch has just been pulled back in order to provide enough headroom for the stairs. I feel that these variances are minor and basically in compliance with the 4 planning tests. I'm not sure if there's anybody online objecting, and maybe what I'll do is once I hear them, I can try to respond to their concerns after that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any questions, panel members of the agent at this time? Thank you. So we could hear from the other speaker.
Hi,
We have your name and address, please, sir?
yes, Michael Tang, 113 and a half Lansdowne Avenue.
Okay. So you have 5 minutes, sir. Go ahead.
So we have primarily two concerns. One is a safety concern concerning image number 2. So with the construction of a third rear story dwelling, basically an entire new room on top of the second floor, it's no longer symmetrical with our own house. And since this is a semi-detached, this also involves significant amount of work along our shared wall. And we have not supported this. We have not signed the party wall letter as well, party wall agreement. So we are concerned that this is a potential significant safety issue for us. I think it's kind of dangerous to do this kind of construction with people still living in the next door. So if something were to go wrong, our safety would be impacted. We've also discussed this with our insurance company, and they have advised us that any damage sustained to our property as a result of this construction during or after will not be covered by our insurance. Now, the owners of 113 and a half Lansdowne Avenue are retired. They survive on government income, so we would not be able to sustain such a loss. These are our primary concerns, so safety concerns, financial concerns. Yeah, pretty much these areas.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions, panel members? Okay, thank you. Could we go back to the agent, please, to respond?
So through you, Madam Chair, to Mr. Tang, I believe that the owners of 113 basically approached their neighbors and tried to have a discussion about this in order to obtain their support. It seems to me that listening to this and also reading the objection letter, that the objections are mainly focused on structural concerns, which relate to the party wall mainly that is shared. Those are things that are not really addressed in this, hearing. This is more to do with zoning matters and so on. This is something that we would be addressing through the Ontario Building Code and a building permit application. And these kinds of constructions are very common in Toronto, and I myself have participated in over 100 of them over the course of my career. And there are ways to minimize risk and so on. Neither the owners of 113 nor yourself want to see any damages occur. The other point that I would make is that the part that he raised about the third floor at the back and so on, that's actually a part of our application that doesn't require any variances. Our variances are only related to those two matters that I mentioned, the entrance in the front wall, which is pretty obscured, in my opinion, behind the existing front porch there, and the landscape, the soft landscape area at the front, which is, as I said before, I feel like that's very much an existing issue that we cannot really address in this application. I hope that's answered the concerns and kind of shine some light on this for the committee, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions, panel members? Okay, thank you. We'll go into committee now for discussion or a motion. Mr. Reid?
Forward a motion for approval. These are only two variances and they're quite minor. This area has many basement walkouts in the front, and the landscape variance being requested is reflective of an existing condition. So I see no negatives from approving this, and move approval with no conditions.
Have a seconder? Okay, seconded by Mr. Granstein. So we have a motion for approval, no conditions. All in favor? The application is approved. We now move to number 39. 190 Maria Street. The committee has before it a copy of the minutes of the August 12th, 2020 public hearing and the materials submitted for consideration. Copy of plan of survey, revised site plan, floor plans, and elevations. Covering letter from Richard Papa, agent, received November 2nd. Presentation materials from the agent received January 20th. 7 form letters in support signed by the owners and occupants of 181, 184, 177, 194, 180, 275, and 215 Maria Street. Moderator, do we have anyone to speak other than the agent or owner?
Just the agent.
Thank you. Will the agent identify themselves with their name and address for the record, please?
Hi everybody, Rick Papa, AFA Architects, 263 Adelaide Street West.
Thank you. Panel members, do you need a presentation? Any questions? Is there anything that you'd like to tell the committee before we consider this application?
Through you, Madam Chair, I just want the committee to note that we've been in extensive correspondence with the neighbor. We've made modifications to the previous scheme, based on their concerns. And I think that the proposal is minor in nature and it fits well within the context of the neighborhood.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, panel, we're in committee now. Discussion and a motion, please. Mr. Reed?
Thanks. Yes, I am happy to hear that there have been changes since the initial application, and this is a very eclectic street with pretty wildly different structures on it. And I think filling in this lot, which was really had a setback, building on it, it makes a lot of sense in an area that's well served by transit. I can see no real negative impacts from the variances being sought, so I'll move approval with no conditions.
Okay. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Mr. Brandenstein. So approved and seconded, or moved to approve and seconded with no conditions. All in favor? Your application has been approved. The committee moves on to number 40, 786 Indian Road. The committee has before it a copy of the minutes from the June 16th, 2021 public hearing and the materials submitted for consideration. Copy of plan of survey, revised site plan, floor plans, and elevations. Email correspondence from the engineering coordinator, traffic planning, transportation services, Toronto and East York District, received March 19th. And correspondence in opposition from Nadia Saragosa at 790 Indian Road. Moderator, do we have a couple of speakers on this item?
Madam Chair, we have the agent. We have one other speaker in opposition, and the third speaker who is listed in opposition is not on the line. Okay. Multiple attempts were made, but they hung up.
Thank you very much. So could the agent please identify themselves with their name and address for the record? Please and thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Khalid Ibrahim, 3908 Quiet Creek Drive, Mississauga.
Okay, thank you very much. You have 5 minutes.
Okay, so good afternoon. My name is Khalid Ibrahim from IDIM Architects. I am the architect and the agent of 786 Indian Road. Yes, I would like to mention that we deferred our application back in June 2021. So most of these comments back for the previous application. So we revised our application from proposing 4 units to 3 units. We are adding 2 secondary suites to the existing house by proposing 2 rear story addition and 3rd story with a balcony. We are asking a relief of 4 variances. Number 1 is the proposed north side yard setback is 0.45 meter, while the permitted setback is 0.46 meter. Number two, the proposed side exterior main wall height is 9.69 meter, while the permitted height is 7.5 meter. The proposed FSI is 0.71 times the lot area, while the permitted FSI is 0.6 times the lot area. Number 4 and 5 are related to the secondary suite, the proposed suites. So we are adding a door at the front wall, sorry, and we are altering the front wall as well. So the bylaw says we are not permitted to alter the wall and adding an entrance at the front. So we believe that our application meets the 4 tests, and I am happy to answer any questions.
Joanne, you're unmuted. You're muted.
I apologize. I unmuted myself to blow my nose, and there you go. Okay. So any questions from the panel? I don't think so. So can we then go to the next speaker? Thank you.
Uma Venkatamaria, you are unmuted and able to speak.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Irfan Daya. I am the spouse of Uma Venkataramaya and the owner of 782 Indian Road. We were previously in opposition to the minor variances requested, but have since engaged with the developers and are okay to proceed. We did suggest to them that in future we would strongly encourage them to make attempts to engage with their neighbors prior to submitting their variance requests, and that was well taken. So after walking through some of the variances, we are okay to proceed.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, panel members? No? Okay. So as there's no one in opposition, I don't think there's anything to rebut, but does the agent have anything else they'd like to say before we take this into committee?
And nothing to add.
Thank you. Okay, so we're in committee. Members, discussion and a motion? Mr. Reed?
Thanks, Chair. I'm glad to hear that there's been some agreement with the neighbors. That's always good to hear. And I think that this is a completely reasonable application. I think that expanding the floor space on the top floor is much less impactful than extending out towards the back. This is still a short house in terms of length and depth. So I think it's a smart and reasonable application, and I move to approve with no conditions.
Sorry, just before that, sorry, through you, Madam Chair, if we can just get the person who spoke in interest to just state their name again. Uma.
You still on the line?
Yes, I am. It's Irfan Daya, spelled IRFAN DAYA, and I'm the spouse of Uma.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Reed?
May I ask, I do know that the neighbor on the north side at 790 Indian Road was in opposition. I imagine that Nadia is not on the line?
I don't think we have anyone else speaking, but we did receive that correspondence and it's been reviewed by the committee as part of their preparation and consideration of the application.
Great. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Welcome. Mr. Reed?
Thanks. I move approval of the application with no conditions.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Mr. Granatstein. So that's motion for approval of the application with no conditions. All in favor? Application's been approved. We move to item 41. 133 Parkmount Road. The committee has before it the following: copy the minutes from the August 26, 21 public hearing and the materials submitted for consideration. Copy the plan of survey, revised site plan, floor plans, and elevations. correspondence from Murray Feem, the agent, received October 15th, and email correspondence from the Assistant Planner, Community Planning, City Planning, Toronto and East York District, received January 19th, 2020. Moderator, is there anyone other than the agent or owner to speak to this matter?
Just the agent.
Thank you. The agent, please identify themselves by name and give their address for the record, please.
Yes, hello, committee members. My name is Murray Fern. I live at 20 Ferris Road in Toronto. I'm representing the owners of 133 PARKMOUNT Road today.
Thank you. Committee members, do you need a presentation? Do you have any questions? Mr. Reed?
Thanks. I just want to ask the applicant that they've seen the conditions being proposed by community planning and they're in agreement with them.
Mr. Fern?
Yes, sorry, what was the question?
I'm trying to make sure if you've seen the conditions that are being proposed by community planning and if you're in agreement with them.
Yes, we were in discussions with the planning department, and we've revised our drawings to conform with their requirements for the garage height and for the soft landscaping. So we are in agreement.
Okay, and you're tying it to plans.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions, panel members? Okay, Mr. Fern, is there anything you want to say before we take it into committee?
No, nothing other than, again, we had it deferred originally, and we had our discussions with the planning department, and we've revised our drawings to comply with their requirements.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fern. Okay, we're in committee now. Discussion and a motion, please. Mr. Granitstein?
Yeah, I move that the application be approved subject to the 2 conditions from planning.
Okay. Do I have a seconder? Mr. Reed seconds. So approval to motion to approve subject to the 2 planning conditions. All in favor? Your application's been approved subject to those conditions. And on that note, the committee has finished its agenda for today, and the hearing stands adjourned at 5:41 p.m. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Way to go, Joanne. Thanks.
Thank you.